Aloha. Uh, Today I'm kind of scatterbrained, but I do have a focus that is somewhere around there in the realms of um, how today's, or not even just today's, just altogether the story of physicality and the story of spirituality, and how they get split up in the minds, just like the oceans on this planet. We call the oceans. It's only one ocean out there, and they put this imaginary line in there to create this idea of power, to be able to name and split oceans and say this is this and this is that, and that's really just the precursor to being able to name and split countries and peoples and families and individuals' mindsets, even their connections to God. They split themselves with each other, split all kinds of different versions of storylines going on, a whole bunch of different oceans, so many oceans going around that people end up drowning and creating rationalizations for that drowning mentality and that drowned out world. And that whole idea of control itself and who and power and who, who the fuck are these people? Like, what the fuck? Who is anybody to tell anybody else who just got born out of a vagina from the galaxy to be here and then be told automatically, oh, we got a tax on your spirit. There's a taxation in this realm, and it involves you having to do certain stuff, and also playing this game and believing these ideas and separating yourself and destroying pretty much your entire connections to what you inherently feel from your own intuition and your own heartbeat, your own life source. If the fact that there are already little lies, or we call them little lies, but they're the biggest lies going on with, like, conspiracies with the FBI and the CIA and the assassinations of presidents and leaders who talk about unity and bringing stuff together. There's all these worlds out here that exist, and there's the big world that also exists, in quotation mark, big in quotation marks, because there's that idea out there that nothing is real until it has a stamp of approval from some group or some layer of consciousness, layer of aware, a very tangible group, and the unveiling of this group on the easily recognizable space right now is the fact that a mainstream exists. The fact that the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean exists when there's one ocean. The fact that all these countries exist when there's human beings. And we have cultures, we have differences. There's actual truth to who we are as a whole. And the indigenous peoples of this planet have been telling these stories all over the world, all over the place, over and over and over again. But once you get it, once a box gets installed into the focus, then people forget about these other stories. And right now is a serious time for people to get right on every level. On every level. if there's any kind of uncertainty about something, go check it out. If there's any kind of whatever on anything, go check it out. If there's any kind of joking going around on serious stuff, then hey, you know, to each his own. But at the same time, there is no separation between the blood being spilled on the rest of the planet and the blood that anybody else has in their body walking around in the so-called spiritual communities, or the top 1% communities, or the American dream communities, all these other different oceans that get split up for us to rationalize our separation for the sake of living under a rule. That's the main point. Living under a finger of someone or something else, and just being okay with that. There's nobody that's gonna come and save anything. There's nobody that's gonna come and do all the, because it's the individuals. It's each person who's each individual spiral who was born in this place to be that. When you were born into this realm, that was your second coming. That was your time to come into this place and do what it is that you got to do to understand the depths of the stories for yourself, and then activate those potentials and beyond from within the self space in the moment, and then share that with everybody else around you. But there ain't gonna be nobody else that's gonna come here and do it for you. You can't go and read a fucking book about it. You can't go listen to anybody. You can't go do this. You can't go do that. You can't do any one thing. It's all of these things, and it's different for everybody. These little subtle little like programs are everywhere. I always used to ask, why are all the maps with America in the middle? And then I'm recently talking about the maps itself, like why are there only so many pictures of the planet? And also check out some of the flat earthers out there talking about flat earth stuff, and the inner earth stuff, and the civilizations from back in the Lemurian, Atlantean time frames, and all this other information that's out there. And we go ahead and just see these books, like these old school books. That's another one. Another one I wanted to talk about is the old school mentality, and the whole the system right now, and how we have old souls and we have new souls and we have everything in between, and everybody's living together. And some of these old souls, and this is coming from a space of personal, like just like looking at it for myself, and seeing things that exist, storylines with my own family. And you can feel souls, and you can see people, because one good example is that from living in, like, or growing up and living in places like Oakland, the Bay Area, heavily populated. They call it inner cities and all that other stuff. Whatever labels people put on it. When you live in these places, you connect with people on a level that is very intuitive and very connected on a spiritual level, but people don't really recognize it. The fact that you can look at somebody and they know exactly what you're getting ready to do or getting ready to say just from the way you look or the way you approach them. Or there was a person that approached me the other day in Home Depot, wanted to sell me a gift card, and I knew from a look what he was getting ready to come up to me about. And we just said hello. And I had been wondering why I'd been in Home Depot for a long time. But he needed some help with a hustle, and he hooked me up at the same time with $9 extra on a gift card. I mean, these are these connections that we make. So I actually got paid to go to Home Depot and go get my little copper wire for these spirals I was making, and then ended up going there and getting that stuff pretty much for free because so I said hello and somebody was comfortable enough to approach me. Somebody from my town who knew it. When you look at people, because you don't just approach anybody like that. You have to know them. You have to know like what you have to feel them through a look, through an interaction, that center point. See, a lot of the mainstream focus is focused on all this stuff out here, not even touching on the center points of our existence, not even getting into what this energy is, the source of this energy inside us, the balances of these pyramids, the allness of this magic that exists inside of any kind of art that expresses like the yin and yang frequencies or the balances or whatever it is. This Sri Yantra, and this is an organized piece I put together. I've been putting together recently with neodymium magnets, magnetite, copper, shells and quartz from here in the Bay Area, and spirals and all. Yeah, just whatever balance comes to me. And my mom's been carrying around a smaller one. You see the spiral in there. She was carrying around a smaller one, and she puts it right on her heart chakra, right on her chest. Anytime she's feeling pain, and she feels the calming space of it, and it helps her center herself. So this is a combination of sacred symbols, sacred geometry, orgone energies, all kinds of stuff, and she understands how this exists and this stuff. Yeah. So these energies that exist, these one oceans, this one ocean that exists. See, we get so focused on the city limits. That's it. The city limits. We get caught up in rules and regulations of the city limits, and we forget about not only the county, the country, the rest of the planet and each other and the galaxy. We forget all that stuff because we got our days 24/7 filled up with city limits. We are stuck in a city limit mentality, and within those city limits, these little bogus trickster control old school magicians are playing old school magic, and if it works on people, they're gonna use it. Oh well, see how they split all these oceans up. The Indian Ocean, all this. They're just making stuff up. Antarctica, you just making stuff up. I know. We know what's up. It's more information out there. It's more information out there, and we are knowing about this stuff. Because this stuff exists inside of us. We are these balances. That's the main thing. If you can't understand, if you are not privy to the information that balances the sky and the ocean and the lands and the animals and the peoples, if we can't understand that information because it's not available to us, or it's skewed or whatever, however it is, a certain way, either delivered or not delivered, or even hidden or destroyed. When all this stuff gets out there, this is like the main system for war. Like when even war mentalities, a military industrial complex today. We can go over to Iraq. First place they went into was the Iraqi museum and just took all that shit and destroyed all that stuff in there. And that's the main thing about crusades, is to go in there and get these stories and cover up these stories. Get that energy and cover that energy up. Oil is blood. Oil is energy. Oil is the lifeblood of this planet. And this is why these military industrial complex mentalities go after this place this space because they have to hide. They have to tell you that oil is important enough to kill people, and you have to send your kids to go and get that oil. When the story behind that is going into free energy and the spiritual realm and everything else that exists out there in inside of our hearts and inside the collective space of all of us. So it's such a web, such like a web of magic, and it's reminiscent of on the outward scale, on like the in your face, it's reminiscent of a collective universal space, but it's really based in city limits. So this is just the beginning of the way. I'm gonna do another video right now. I keep this wave flowing. So until next time, peace, love, and harmony. Aloha. Welcome back. This is kind of like a part 2 to what the last video, what I was talking about. Oh, that's one of the embroidery images that I put together. It's just a REUPLOAD. And dream space stuff too. This is a blanket from Cusco, Peru. I got one. I was down there in 2012. Telling stories, beautiful colors. It was one of my favorite pieces. So I left off on waves. What was that wave talking about? I forgot exactly what it was talking about, but oh, okay. So balances, yeah, balance and So the stories that get hit on, yeah, war mentality, military industrial complex mentality, prison industrial complex mentality, all the mainstream stuff exists right now to hide at least 3 layers of other truths that exist beyond that. And that's all distraction magic. Every single thing that we see in the education system, on the TV, everything on the TV, everything on the bus stops, on the billboards, everywhere you look is a distraction from your empowered self. That's the main point. If you keep your focus every time you wake up in the morning on the city limits of your consciousness, then you will never be able to awaken your own kundalini, whether it's individually or collectively, and get into that space of empowerment where you are not controlled by makeshift magic and bogus magicians and just it really is everywhere. It's from people talk a lot about NASA and everything, and the fact that NASA even exists, the whole storyline of going to the moon, everything, like how deep these stories go. So the main point of that is just to see how far all this stuff is gone. Like, we're still talking about we watch on the news and we look around, we talk about stuff, and I don't have Facebook anymore, but I remember on Facebook you just talk about stuff like stuff that is part of a complex, and then that's the whole I can't believe I forgot. Yeah, the complex of focus, the city limits, and these city limits, racism exists. in these city limits, because racism is part of that city. It's like named racism, and the first city limits was named sexism, and that was way back in the days. And then later on, when they got good at sexism, they just went into creating another system of separation and division to control people. So once you control the birthers of this material realm, the beautiful Stargate women, the feminine, divine feminine frequency, once you shut that down with an ism, all these isms is full of shit, all of them, all the isms, get all them isms out of there. But the ismness is like the nothing in the never-ending story, like this hurricane. It just goes around and just destroys everything and leaves a nothing. And then when that nothing gets done soaking the land for its energy and soaking the people for their energy, then it moves on to the next energy hub. So the first energy hub to control this realm was to create an idea of separation between the male and the female, and the masculine and feminine energies on this whole planet through the consciousness of humanity. So take these stories first of all and shut them down. Take all these, you got to take all these artifacts that were on the grounds on the planet before they were stuck underneath some museum in Great Britain or UC Berkeley or wherever they're putting this stuff. This stuff is everywhere, and it's everywhere except in front of us on purpose, because if we figure this stuff out, that inherently removes the power from these, or the illusory power from these money changers and old head magicians. So we got some old head magicians. Yeah, musicians too. That's everything. It's everywhere. Music. I was saying, talking to my family yesterday, talking about how we haven't even been allowed to hear the actual music of the people of this planet. We haven't even been allowed, say again, we haven't even been allowed to hear the music of the people of this planet. Like the depths of the music of the people of this planet, because we've been stuck in. An easy example would be to see somebody whose only understanding of music is BET and MTV and VH1, and that's their only connection to what music is and what the origins of music and everything. Not even understand are going into the history of music and all these frequency and vibration. That's another story. That's another part of the subconscious layer of controlling. But the main thing is that I'm talking about, right? I want to stay on topic is the arts and the colors and the curves of humanity that get forcefully straightened out by people who want to control. And everything gets bland. You know, once you turn a circle into a square, you know, you're losing something. You're losing something. So, the psyche of destroying the circle of our balance, our humanity, our connections, the actual, the realm that we exist in before any light came into being, you had to at first have a material field existing out there, and that material, that matriarchal field that exists, needs to be shut down if you're gonna control people, to divide, just like the countries and the oceans and the culture and or the so-called culture, the so-called cultures, splitting everything up, shutting everything down, taking energy, taking music, actual essence. Just like in the music industry, they'll take actual musicians who put their heart and soul into it, and then completely remove a lot of the essence, or add in a lot of subconscious layers of control and disempowerment. It's like, give your power away. Not only, and there's no way you can be empowered, because we exist. You can hustle as much as you want, but you're still gonna be hustling inside of our world. That's how that mentality is, to control people. And it's infective. It's like a virus. It goes around, and then we start policing ourselves, we start policing each other, we start spreading this guilt complex around, because we don't understand the depths of our own existence. So these old stories that get passed from grandparents to great grandparents to grandparents to parents to kids to parents to kids to parents to kids, forever, over and over again, you can create a system of control. So back on the topic of the first system of control was to shut down the power of the feminine, and we are seeing that now. You see just a world covered with patriarchal programs and patriarchal, just penises built everywhere. Everywhere you look, it's just a phallic symbol or a phallic representation. And not only that, but it's a total beating down of the feminine aspect at the same time. You can't have one without the other, because then it'll be too obvious. So you gotta also beat it down to keep it down. So that's the main story going on. And the fact that exists is enough for an entire planet to be like, you know what, hold up, stop the press, fuck all this stuff, stop, what the fuck is going on here, what the hell are we doing, and what the hell are we not doing? And these people who are making these rules and continuing to pass on these mentalities of self-destruction through stuff like the television and the radio and the internet and Facebook and all these other things out there, and we get too focused on a lot of the times we get focused on the actual content of the matter, when that's not even the deepest, that's not even the first layer of the deepest layers of programming that's there, because it's the fact that a lot of these stories and storylines, the storylines that exist, period, and that we're talking about them, we're activating them at a particular time. So when Facebook puts out a story, and I say Facebook is because Facebook is aware. If they are aware of each individual's likes and dislikes, information and all the information, then they are aware of the trending stuff that's all over the planet. They are aware of the free energy information that's out there. They are aware of the connecting stories that are out there. They are aware of all this other stuff, and then they filter, just like a television does, or an idea. It filters out what is gonna destroy their illusion and replaces that space with a mentality, like, for example, a patriarchal program. So it's like a double down. So these double downs, these double down worlds that exist everywhere is the distraction. So we're stuck in like a double down distraction world, and we get like bickering back and forth about it, when forever that exists at every moment, all the time, that always exists, is the truth, the actual story, the compassionate center of whatever it is that anybody is talking about. That always exists. So the bickering back and forth between whoever it is, on the galactic scale, to the people running the White House, to family matters, all this is separation. I'm not saying we're not going to have arguments and all this stuff. There's a difference between the flow and the essence of interaction and communication and relationship and humanity. There's always that balance there. That's the spice. That's actually the essence of this dance that we are, the bridge. This dancing bridge realm. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of beautiful lightness and beautiful darkness that exists in this realm, in us, that we exist as, and are the gods of. Little G's. And people are realizing it now, and it's very dangerous to so-called controllers, or so-called politicians, everybody who has created an illusion, a story of power or control over somebody else, and then when that system starts to crash, they get very scared, and they'll continue to keep creating sub-stories to distract people and keep that story, those old stories, going. But these kids are waking up inside of the older crews, and the young kids are already hip to their game. So I'll end it on that note for this video. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, peace, love, and harmony. Aloha. Today I had a few things that I wanted to speak on regarding starting from the Supreme Court and work my way out. How much can I get in 15 minutes? Starting from the Supreme Court, and how the Supreme Court itself is a fallacy. It's a word magic. This is a supremacy court. It's a white supremacy court. From the wigs and the robes all the way down to the wigs and the robes that we wear when we walking across the stage in high school and in the college and master's degrees and PhDs. It's just a deeper layer of a box program. Each time we go into those higher grades of systems, we're going deeper into their supreme world of superiority over the majority of the peoples on this planet. And that double back magic in that space is calling the 9/10 of the people on this planet the minorities. That right there is the mind, is like a mind root that is the beginnings of institutionalization on a collective scale, just like the Supreme Court is, and the United Nations involving all this, like all these rules and lines and all this stuff that gets invented for a psychological focus of some sort. And we wake up every morning and continue to run those startup programs as if they were our startup programs, as if they've been these programs forever, like forever, as if it's actually human nature. So that's like defining human nature. Like these extra programs that run during the day on a busy work week and being successful and getting your job and going to school and taking care of business and doing all this is beautiful stuff. Is it the full potential of the human experience? Far from it. Far from it. And all these fallacy books that get put out there by institutions like the Reader's Digest and other groups of individuals that have been around for a long time and been playing with these frequencies, these styles of manipulation for centuries. We convince ourselves that things are different and that we are different when we're in different places. Why, like, the magic gets so great around the world through television and radio back in the day that America is great, or United States of America and is great, and everybody, that's where the whole atmosphere of the atmosphere of definitions, not definitions, the songs ending, so there. Yeah. So this book is another one laying around. I guess my mom had a Reader's Digest. She must have had a Reader's Digest subscription and just spent her money on books, and they just stacked up, and we used to flip through them. But stuff like this is why I picked up this big book. I was gonna start singing the song. I read this introduction, and you can see it just basically talks about a piece of an Egyptian bronze cat. According to them, turned out to be fake and etc. But the main point is that this whole thing, like, who made this book? Who creates this grid? See, that's a grid right there. And all these little boxes that are in there, like, they're saying that these stories, so what is under? So these stories are linked in, so these stories are linked into what we believe is truth. Like, they are inventing truth. And this is the extent of 25 years. They only go back on a certain layer, back to like a certain shallow layer of history. Like, history is based on like not knowing before the like pre-Columbian stuff. Like, you go back further than that, you start seeing golden ages of all the indigenous peoples on this planet, and you start to disassemble what the white supremacist frequency that is within even the TV commercials, even the clothes that we wear, even the personalities that we create as who we think we are. This stuff comes out in our own little ideas of ourselves, and we don't even see it. The way we speak to each other, the way we interact, our music. Like in a few of the last videos, I said that the music that we listen to is not our music. This music has been tainted with frequencies and with subconscious programming and all kinds of other things that we haven't even unlocked yet to see how deep these threads are going. And just because people have made books and done these books and all this stuff for so long and put together some fancy stuff, like, doesn't mean that it's the truth. Or a lot of the time, this information, okay, so this information exists, it's all great and well, and these are good perspectives, but that's the whole thing. By the time you can, this is really the whole grid line, fact and fallacy. The whole grid line that you have in your 24/7 waking state reality. So if you were to stay awake and not go to sleep 24 hours a day for 7 days, and you existed in this world for only a week, 24 hours a day for a week, and they said these are the facts and these are the fallacies of this world. Read this book, and you read this book like, oh wow, this world is only what this book says it is. And that's what all these things that we hear on TV and in the radio in college and important stuff we call real important stuff, but these are just perspectives, like important stuff now today. You hear about an individual, Adrian Peterson. So I wanted to talk about Adrian Peterson and the whole ritual part. I'm glad that came up. So these books are a ritual in itself. Downloading this information is a ritual in itself. When you go to school, that's a ritual. When you go to the military, that is a ritual. When you go into the basic training and get your hair cut, everything is a ritual. Sitting down and communicating with people at a certain vibration of fear or whatever it is, all of that is a ritual. These are frequencies that are coded in realities that we can experience in our dream space and from our soul level, but don't necessarily have the dimensional awareness of its existence and its code in here, so we can have this experience, so we don't get distracted by stuff like that to have this physical experience. So stuff like the galaxy and beyond, information beyond a control grid is not put out there. And once you keep people at a certain vibration, then you can control them. You can control them with a world that you create. Invent a world and place it around their field. And as long as they have their waking moments, it's out of sight. As long as everything else, the rest of the universe, the rest of the galaxy is out of sight, then you won't even be able to unlock the magic within that space. So that's the big program being played right now. That's being played down. That is the collective space between individuals on this planet. So all the occult information, the occult ritual stuff that's here. See, I wasn't even really paying attention to what I was flipping to, but these rituals, this is exactly what I wanted to flip to, because down to the gladiator games of Adrian Peterson and all the heavy duty, like Michael Jordan's number 23, so 2 3's 33. They got the Bulls, Chicago Bulls. You got him doing Space Jam with Michael Jackson. You got the bull symbolism and the Saturn symbolism and the extraterrestrial or alien, whatever. All these words have codes. They have actual meanings that represent certain stuff. So when it gets like mixed up, then that's when we can get lost in the sauce. So these number games that get played right in front of our face, that's why ESPN is so big, because these are number games that get flashed over and over again. These are ritual codings that are flashed over and over again, and mixed in with the commercials, which is a deeper layer of threading, because even down to the food commercials are layered in to your lower chakra. So everything that you see around you in your space is linked into your lower chakra field. The upper chakra field is shut down and meant to be not even like accessed or even aware of, because if people start accessing the heart chakra, then you have access, then you start accessing the higher chakras and balancing the lower chakras. So if you start balancing and amplifying your lower chakras and undoing the magic that is still within our own subconscious space, because we haven't like pointed at it. We haven't put that light there and said, hey, this exists, and then it'll be able to process out of there. Once you do that with all these other things, it's not like, that's what I think, there's something that you have to do, but there's nothing really you have to do. The doingness happens inside of you. So if there's something that's being done to you in a space because you're allowing it for this experience, then you can just become aware of that space, tap into that space, and be able to heal your own space with your awareness in that truth, and then keep making that space run deeper and deeper and deeper, and understand your own numbers, your own coding, your own space of existence in this whole this whole pie. Yeah, the whole pie, not just the piece of the pie. See, when we haven't connected into the entire human pie yet. We've been served only genetically modified apple pie planet-wide, because that's where the grid, the war mentality comes from, where whoever's holding that sword, and that sword's been held for a long time by the British Empire by way of the United States Empire right now, and down into the ritualistic number games and blood games of the behind the scenes. So that's another thing. So I reiterate again, down to the jersey numbers, down to the how much money they make per year, down to how old they are, their birth date numbers. All of these numbers exist, and they are manipulated and moved around and flashed in our faces at a flicker rate over and over again to create a space that makes us into that field. See, this is a different field. See, this is a different experience. But when you hit this all the time, this is like the TV. The TV is just constantly throwing stuff at you. The radio, personalities, all this stuff is just, it's just life and death, life and death, life and death. Like, keep focusing on that mess, and then you'll like throw yourself out of your own spiral. You'll miss it. So one good way into starting into that field and out processing those spells is to start with seeing where this fear exists. An easy one would be understanding death and your relationship to death. If you were born, then you understand the relationship to life. When you die, in a sense, die, or this expression, die. Now, that's just part of an experience. So you have to remove that fear. Understand and process whatever death is, and then you can amplify that empowered space and start creating. And that's where this ritualistic stuff is based in. It wants to keep the great masses outside of the creation field, because if you start to activate your fields and start creating, then these little sub-creators start to lose their power. So I'll end right there. To the next one. Peace, love, and harmony. Aloha. Left off on rituals and numbers and subconscious magic games that get played right under our noses, right in front of us, everywhere, and how we activate that space by believing in it and reinforcing it within our own personalities and our own expressions of ourselves and interactions with each other, and ideas of culture and ideas of parenting and raising, the way we raise our children, the way we eat, the way we drink, the way we everything comes from a space. And this is funny. This page, I'm not even looking at this. And, wow. The so yeah, when you have stories that exist that are rooted in gold and diamond and like super gold and super diamond, and you have stuff that you have stuff that they can unify an entire field of people, an entire species of people. If that space has been under control for so long, you're gonna have people who are gonna be not wanting to let go of that power grid. Then you're gonna have people that exist within that space that really just under there, that really believe in that world, and they will do things that will involve killing other people to protect themselves. And that's where the wartime mentality comes in, and where they will not think twice with making 1 billion Army commercials and Navy commercials and Marines commercials and recruiting bases and in your schools, in and around your kids' schools, and all this other stuff on TV and radios. Your babies are listening to the radio play, and then an Army commercial comes on the radio. That baby is getting programmed by that commercial. They're hearing all of that stuff, and it's being programmed into their dreams. So these dreams are being manipulated by these people. So once you have your dream space, and this is how I explained it yesterday to my brother, what happens is, so these are perfect. So we come into this reality, and we come in with these access points as a baby. We're born here. So this is the spiritual space of infinity, and this is the material realm, the physical reality. So we get born into this space, and we're constantly like spinning with this reality, and then our dreams exist as, like, for example, this book. If this book had everything in this book, this like, yeah, this Reader's Digest as book. So anyway, this is us in a human experience as, you know, a spiritual spiral. This is 2 spirals on one piece of copper. So anyway, and this is just one. So physical reality and the infinite spiritual experience, which is infinity. So, and us, this is us and us all in one thing. So we get here spinning around as babies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and around 5 to 7 years old, that's when school starts to kick in. So we're listening to we're learning from our parents, what they learned from their parents, and we're learning what this physical reality is all about, because this is always there, and this is how we're always experiencing this infinite field in our dreams. That's why dreams are very important. So when your dreams, you know, get manipulated to be not important anymore, then you are losing a piece of yourself. You're like losing no less than a curve on your experience. So you're on your infinite experience. So what happens is that this starts spinning around at between 1 and 5 years old. You've been having 1 to 5 years of programming. You've had one of downloading of information, of convincing of this is your reality. This is how this experience exists on this planet. This is what this is all about. I'm covering that up. Oops. So, so since this all exists together as one, when you're a baby, you're balanced. You're processing that stuff. Everything that you need to get out of and understand in your dream space as a baby, you're anchored here, and you're processing all that stuff, and you're good. You're fully activated. You're not working against yourself with any kind of self-destructive programs yet, because you haven't been trained enough to start to work and undo this spiral. You're just like ripping this spiral apart through self-destructive measures because of a creation that somebody has put in your brain for you to do that. And messed up food and messed up fluoride in the water, and messed up air, and jacked up soil, and one of the biggest ones are the infected psyches, the infected ideas of self-destructive behavior that gets put in there. And that's the main thing that starts to go throughout the planet to take us out. But individually, this is what happened. So for example, this is what happened to me, and this is what happens to a lot of kids. Between 1 and 5 years old, you're grooving. I remember my dreams when I was like 5, 6, and 7. I remember this whole time frame. Because my friends at that age, we used to talk about our dreams at school, and the first days of school, kindergarten, first grade, all this stuff was very impactful. Like, it was very alive. It was a live space. It was brand new. It was like, oh, this is school. I can't wait to go to school and see all these other people and talk about all this stuff. And at my time, at that time, so this was in 87? Yeah. So 87, 88, and 80. Yeah, 87, 88, 89. That time frame is right when. And 89 was the earthquake at the Battle of the Bay. Man. October 17th. Yeah, so all these. Anyway, let me get back to one point. So yeah, 5, 6, and 7 is when you start to lose your dreams, because the 5-year mark, not only because that, but this is another one. You're creating your reality at that time frame on this place, and these start to get fuzzy. The signal starts to get messed up, because that initial physical reality program is meant to challenge this. It's meant to challenge this. If you don't keep this alive, if you don't keep this part of yourself alive, and this reality starts to become more centered as this is it, this is like this reality, this starts to fade, and this will fade out of the picture. This your infinite space, and the dream realm, which exists everywhere, your surrounding reality, how they create your facts and fallacies. They create this world and remove everything out of it, and close the book, and then hide the book out of the picture, and you just stuck with a blank canvas, but to destroy yourself with and each other. So that exists in everything of these rituals. This is all a ritual of removal and recycling and challenge. Really, it's really just a challenge. Like, it's a challenge to yourself, because you are the experiencer and the creator of this space. So you're consciously aware on every level of what's going on, this experience is challenging otherwise. So the physical reality and the spiritual reality are the challenges that people who want to control work with. So if this is a singular experience, the physical reality, they can just untwist psychologically your spiral, remove your dreams, remove your access to infinity, get that out, and then now they have a spiral that needs to be programmed to do something, whatever it is, because your natural spiral is not spinning anymore, and you're not balanced anymore with understanding the fullness of the self in all spaces. So once that gets out, then you can control this. Once this book gets closed, then you can control this, every individual, psychologically and physically. So psychologically, they start with the babies, the back programming with the radios and the televisions and the thought processes of even the parents and how the parents interact with the kids, and what the parents are subconsciously telling the kids when they're reacting that way based upon the society and the rituals that they have been subject to throughout the system that they haven't even understood yet. So football and ESPN, all this stuff, these are flicker rate. These keep flashing. Every time you see a flicker rate like this, that's trying to remove your infinite space and flicker rate you into this physical fucking reality to stay here and only believe that this is important, only this, and it moves everything out of there. So yeah, like War said, don't let nobody get you down, don't let no one get you down, because you exist as all of this, and the creators of this is very important in understanding the magic of this experience. So dreams are very important. The spiritual space, the infinite space, the physical reality is beautiful and part of this. This is it. This is what we're doing here. We are spinning. We are galaxy in itself, experiencing itself on a planetary realm right now. This is so when these spirals get twisted and all just out of whack and ripped up and everything, which is psychologically what's going on, you focus on the physical part of it. That's another part. That's why the physical is so focused on. Like everybody's like, gotta work out. You gotta run 10 miles a day. You gotta work, you gotta go to the gym 3 times a day, you gotta eat this protein, this, and you drink this and blend this, you gotta do all this stuff, and everybody's got a different balance, everybody's got a different mixture of whatever it is that they gotta do for their daily realities, down to the fact that energy itself exists for people to be picking up. And so that goes into the 3 meals a day and that whole, who made that shit up? So you trace all this stuff back. All these are systems of control to limit you and box you in. So if you're a spiral and you're spinning and somebody says you're going to eat 3 times a day, you're just going to, and then that's like, okay. You know, so it's simplifying you. It's graying everything out. And these don't spin anymore. This doesn't even exist anymore in this space when these limitation programs come down, and you end up spinning this kind of spiral to the next page after next page after next page, going through these facts and fallacies over and over again, and continually covering up and distancing the self. Still you exist in there, it's never lost with you, but this becomes more of a reality. And when the program or the programs get installed and the dreams get removed, then the creator in you shuts down. That's clocking in. That's what it is. Clocking in to a physical reality and clocking out of the physical or the infinite experience. Once you clock into this space, you lose your dreams, you lose this, you lose perspectives on the connection of all of this. This spiral gets wrapped up in confusion. So, yeah. None of that. These programs are being seen for what they are. People are no longer clocking into this bullshit. And things are changing. So I'll thank you for joining me. I'll leave off on that. And until next time, peace, love, and harmony. Aloha. Today I wanted to expand upon parasites and split the word in half and just see how the entire definition of that space is not necessarily a thing or a bug or a one certain definition or something. It's actually it can be a state of mind, it could be a chemical, it could be a thought. A parasite could be an emotional experience, it could be an attachment, it can be whatever it is that is splitting your sight and splitting your experience from yourself and creating a side of your vision. So like you're a side of yourself if you are subject to a parasite, like so, and it that split vision creates a space that allows openings for other energies to inhabit the space that was once balanced but is now split and vulnerable after that space. So I was gonna look at the ocean book, but this book was here, so it was perfect for this. But the main thing I wanted to focus on was or at least just start out with, is the idea of thought forms, psychology, information, different versions of culture and perspective that get put out there that are seen as everyday or mainstream or cool, but a lot of the times they're really set up to be a parasitic experience. So like the thought form of limitation and self-destruction and war, and the prison industrial complex and the military industrial complex and racism, white supremacy still alive and thriving, just even more under the wraps now, so much so that it's within the culture. That parasite perspective, it is magic. It is really a magic that gets into your space and creates a flip. Yeah, it's a lifestyle. There's bodies. There's it's everywhere. I want to go see what that is actually saying though. Yeah, this it's the deepest threads of parasitism or that are alive today are the ones we can't even see right now. The mainstream itself is a parasite. Fast food and what it does to the addictive cells and like the addictive experience, how that interacts with addiction in the human experience and kids and emotions and how everything is intertwined. It kind of like attaches these definitions very easily. You can see all of these things that are very easily connected, but just like just mixed up and separate from our eyes, but our subconscious eyes are very aware and engaged in this magic that is intended to be put out there as a parasite. So turn this down a little bit. Yeah, so the space of creating ideas that leech onto a brain or a mind and reproduce themselves within the individual's experience, that's a giant parasite. That's a nationwide parasite. Hot dogs are parasites. Bacon is a parasite. Bacon it's crazy. It's fucking ridiculous how we don't look in the microscopic and macroscopic versions, and we only get stuck in a little version of this experience. We kind of just sit here happily ill-informed. I'm speaking from my own feeling, my own expressive feeling from when I, let's say, 8 years ago or however many years ago. It was just that space of going and eating fast food every day, but in a human experience, like, oh yeah, I literally used to do that, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner sometimes, and this body survived through all of that leeching, that disgusting, because those threads that go through your brain through commercials. You're constantly bombarded with the idea of buying something, eating something, getting insurance itself, doing whatever it is that you got to do, based upon an illusion that has been constantly flicker-rated in your face to create an attachment. And these attachments, these parasitic attachments, come pre-installed with like judgments and guilt, the guilt complex, military-industrial complex, prison-industrial complex, all of these little things that we call little things, the commercials, the television shows, even the way they're designed, the judges, what judgment is, the Supreme Court, like all of these little, so-called little and separate threads are very attached. And if we were to take a moment, like if we were all just to sit around at a round table somewhere and then in a park and just talk about like how one thing, like how politics can be seen from a parasitic perspective, how culture, mainstream culture today can be seen from a parasitic perspective, and then how that can this is a fucking disgusting book. All these oh yeah, making my stomach churn just talking about this. So yeah, maybe somebody else is liking it. Yeah, these are all experiences, moments in time to where the collective, the individual is reflecting a part of the collective experience. Like this, the tiny parasites that we see that are within people's homes or thought patterns are directly related to the parasitic thought patterns that are within the that are within the entire planet, the global perspective. Like it's all throughout us, the system. But yeah, I don't have to expand on it any more than that. I think I'm gonna cut this one short right here, and just end with the parasitism that I just realized from this book. This is pretty and even way more detailed scientifically and biologically than I was prepared to expand upon. But the point got across, which was how parasites is it can affect our entire experience. It can be a chunk of time. It's ultimately a choice to engage in a space and anchor a reality for a certain balance of experience, because a lot of the times we don't even want to see what the other alternatives were when we get approached with experiences like a parasite experience. So the parasite experience, it really is a hitchhiker for on time. So we can see like the leaders, the so-called leaders of this country, or in politics and all that, and how thought patterns get into the space of minds and create an illusory thought pattern parasite that we send down to our children. And it's really about getting on the outside, on the outskirts of everything. That's where the parasites stay. They stay on the outskirts of these balances, these harmonies. So these harmonic patterns like this are they're balanced in a space that they protect themselves. They have an energy that a lot of the times is impenetrable. It doesn't even really exist in a space where parasites. We're kind of bringing these energies into this space so we can work with what parasites like copper works with, bringing parasites out of the body, like sucking like crystals, energetically sucking this stuff out of your body, like working with the harmonics of your natural frequency and activating that process of grounding, anchoring, and clearing, harmonizing ultimately the spin. Because everything is spin. Everything is spin. Now that's what I kept missing earlier. It was the spin. So everything is spin. And what parasites do is they get in there and then they just start like jacking up your spin. So everything, a thought pattern is a spin. A good feeling is a spin. Food is a spin. You can see how bad food can spin up your stomach. And good food can do something good for your stomach. Like you can feel that spin. Everything is a spiral. So when we spiral our experience straight from birth, we have a harmonic going that hasn't been tampered with. So when we come through this experience and we keep spiraling into this world, that's when we lose touch with our dreams. That's when we lose touch with our soul work, and we start to get into a physical reality perspective. So that soul work gets put to the side, and we start to open ourselves up to a parasitic experience because we've separated ourselves so much from the center, from the source, from ourselves. So, oh man. Yeah, we get beside ourselves, and our eyes, they get beside themselves and start to focus upon heavier experiences. And then that's when a lot of the weight starts to materialize on the bodies. And we carry a lot more because we're so vested in this physical experience that we carry it around with us. The thought process, the thought patterns, the parasitic thought patterns materialize in our bodies. So there's a balance of dematerializing the body along with the thought patterns and the emotional body and the ego, all balanced, all harmonized together. Because if we start losing a lot of weight and we don't work on our emotional body and we don't work on our ego and we don't pay attention to a lot of other things, that can throw off the entire balance, the entire harmonics that you have for yourself. So I'm glad I took a moment to slow down and really expand upon that, which is the balancing of all that's shifting, all that's changing with everybody. It's good to take a moment and see the various layers of shift that's going on right now, and versions of our perspectives that are all shifting, opening, clearing, anchoring, going deeper into these spaces. Yeah. So spin, everything being spin, everything being harmonic, everything being a spiral. And these parasites, you gotta work on spinning that stuff, harmonizing your spin, and you'll be able to release all of these parasitic thought patterns and experiences and moments. So thank you for joining me. And until next time, peace, love, and harmony.